Thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. I'm Adi Yaravali with the ROC team, and I'm especially excited about today's topic, from AI pilots to revenue impact. We have our friends from the Celigo team here. They'll be sharing insights from MIT Technology Review on what it actually takes to close the operational AI gap and drive real business outcomes. Joining us today are Brian Kanopi, VP of GTM Operations, Sunil Kumar, Director of AI Operations and Development, and Yusuf Zuhairi, Senior Solutions Consultant at Celigo. For those of you who are not familiar with Celigo, they help RevOps and GTM teams automate workflows across your tech stack, especially in critical processes like quote to cash, lead lifecycle management. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Brian to take us through it. Brian, all yours.
Great, thank you, Adi. Hello, everybody. We are very excited to be with this audience. It's always great to be with practitioners in the trenches every day. Wish we were in person together, but we'll just go through virtually today. So today we're going to talk through a few exciting things. We completed a research study with MIT. We'll take you through some of the findings there. And then we'll share some practical examples of how AI is being used specifically internally at Celigo. And many of these use cases our customers have taken and deployed internally in their own organization. So let's get going. The three of us together today, we were in our pre-call and we decided we are the three blind mice because we all have glasses on today. So some quick intros. So my name is Brian Kanopi and I lead our go-to-market operations team. My team covers sales ops, partner ops, and go-to-market automation. And increasingly, we're building AI agents internally that make our engines smarter. So I'm a builder internally, and so are the other two on the call. And that's the lens we'll bring to you on this call of really how we've taken these ideas and really brought them to life. Yusuf is one of our senior solutions consultants. He lives in the product every day, and he meets with customers every day. And he'll demonstrate how customers are actually operationalizing their workflows with Celigo. And Sandeep on the call is my good friend and our secret weapon internally for our go-to-market teams. It's like one of those things, if you can dream it, he can build it. He's the architect behind everything we do internally and the real horsepower. The can-do attitude as well, which is what is exciting to me, and I'll tell you a little more about that later. So let's get into it. Okay, so landscape's changing. This is the classic digital hand. We have a tough job. Everybody on this call has a really tough job. In ops, we are pressured with growing the business, measuring results, defining process. But now we have to learn AI, and we really are trying to rethink and reimagine how our work is done. AI is moving fast, and there are great expectations. I'm sure many of you have your executives or your bosses coming to you and saying, we need AI. How can we use AI to solve this problem? And you can look at this and say, well, I can solve this through maybe a frontier provider, through their applications, whether it's building agents internally on their tool, or you look at a SaaS vendor to build an agent, and every SaaS vendor has a new feature or capability. So these are all new skills we're trying to learn. The hardest part, though, in my mind, is trying to unlearn some of the historical context. When I was a kid, my dad is an electrician. I used to try to help him around the house, and he would say things like, Brian, I'm teaching you these things, not so you do it yourself, but so you know what good looks like. And that is always stuck in my head, and I think that is so relevant even today because we are now using agents to work side by side with us, and we are managing the work that they do, and we need to point them in the right direction. So it's such an interesting combination of outsourced work is not a person, it's now something else. So today we're going to talk about agentic AI, and the way we look at agentic AI is these are processes that are typically multi-step tasks that require minimal human interaction. So that's the direction everyone's going. That's where we're headed. And we'll talk more about that. And really the key point here is part of what we learned in the MIT study. And the problems typically aren't the operational gaps themselves. Their problems aren't the AI themselves, it's the operational gap. It's the data silos, undefined processes, and lack of governance. And that's something everyone in ops can relate to. We all know it. If you go back 10 years ago, this showed up in a different way. This showed up when you went into an executive meeting or a meeting with your peers, and everyone had a different answer to a math problem. And come to find out, everybody got context from a different dashboard. So that's the classic problem, and that's evolving into a new AI problem too. Scan that QR code here. This is a copy of the report for joining watching, you get a free copy of the report. And this is a study. We surveyed over 500 tech executives with MIT, and we understood the ones that are scaling AI versus the ones that are stuck piloting. And what we learned was 90% of those companies with the workflows in production, shocker, relied on integration platforms. And there's a couple pieces to that we want to dig into today. And the companies that are winning aren't the ones with the best models, but they're the ones that understand their data's, where their data is flowing, how it's coming together, and then also they have the fully defined process. And we think of it as there are always situations where you want to deploy AI, but you don't know where to start. And the baseline is always start with writing it down. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon. So scan the QR and get a copy of the report yourself. Did I skip a slide? There we go. The first thing that we learned is AI success correlates directly with process maturity. As you can see, that automated integration is where the executives are finding success. And this is the easiest way to add AI when you've already defined a process and likely you've put context and expectations around the way things operate, whether it's moving data or checking a box in a CRM. So that's where you can then apply an AI agent on top of those things. And one of the examples, again, early in my career at Celigo, I was just learning about all the possibilities of an integration platform. And I went to Sandeep and I said, hey, Sandeep, can you automate this really complicated process that I laid out for him? And very calmly, he looked at me and said, sure, Brian, if you could do it manually and write it down or record yourself on a camera, we can automate it. And that was the thing that really changed my mindset of write it down and then build it. And if you can document it, you can automate it, you can add AI to it. And that's really the litmus test that we should be looking at. But you could see that direct success comes correlated with the concept of process maturity. And again, this is such a classic thing in operations. We know that the processes that get defined, the processes that get measured effectively are the ones that document it. So nothing new here necessarily, but it just reinforces the importance of sort of the core of what we do in ops. So of 90% of the surveyed executives, they say successful AI includes more than one data source. Interesting, which we know. We know context is key. We learned that from the beginning 2 years ago when AI was really coming to the fore. Context is key. Giving it the right context is important, but it doesn't always mean that more data is better AI. And this is kind of where it gets RevOps specific. And speaking directly to the RevOps builders out there, the difference between having an AI tool that's, let's just take an example, looking at your Zoom transcripts and giving you an answer is stark difference between one that's looking at your Zoom transcripts, it's looking at your CRM data, it may be looking at your product consumption patterns. All of that really changes in terms of the output that it's produced. And one small example, which I love to do, and I encourage all of you to do it, is to demonstrate the importance of context. Go to one of your open opportunities in your CRM and find all of the transcripts that you have from that opportunity. Drop them into whichever LLM that you use and ask a big question. Maybe ask a question of, provide me the likelihood that we're going to win this deal. See what it says. Then, after you have that answer, then load in your sales process, your deal qualification framework, and really any other artifacts that you have that institutionalized process at your company. Then ask a series of small questions. And maybe those questions could be related to your process, such as, have I engaged the economic buyer? Do I know the customer buying process? Have we received the technical win? Then ask, after you do that, then ask that big question that you started with and see if you get a different answer, which I think you won't be surprised with what you get because you typically do. So that combination of context, small questions provides a better answer in the end. And that's really part of what we learned is defining process, pulling together the right context, asking the right questions provides the right result. Again, back to the point, more AI isn't necessarily smarter AI. Companies today have dozens of tools, many of which don't talk to each other, and this chart really shows it. These executives, they were being asked the question of, how are you using AI? The answer was typically, well, we are using AI from SaaS vendors, and SaaS vendors are great, and they really help you take you to where you're going. They give you sort of like a proof of concept. They can accelerate the pace of work in many use cases, but it doesn't always have that full context. So the combination of AI with the data fabric creates this irrefutable context layer that we all can appreciate. So we too start using AI out of the box as well. So we will look at all the SaaS vendors that we use and understand, are we using the AI that they've provided? Because they are experts in their domain. They continue to innovate. And as I started this discussion with, it seems like every other day there's a new AI feature or capability, and the gaps that you may have are continually to be closed. There's always that question of, is more AI smarter AI? And the answer is no. Okay, so let's transition a little bit. So today we know that context is key. We know that asking small questions helps deliver the right result. We understand that process documentation is so critical. One of the most classic tensions in business is when IT and the business need to work together to institutionalize something new, implement a new software. IT wants the governance, they want the control, the business wants the speed and innovation. How do you do that? And typically the answer is you have to work together, you have to have a sprint and release plan, you have to document requirements up front, you have to have information gathering sessions. But this quote here from the CIO says it perfectly. And the best ideas come from the people who are living in the work. IT is a great enabler in the world of AI. And if IT can create us the guardrails and give the business the framework to experiment with, the ideas that emerge are pretty incredible. And that's where you start to really accelerate, when you start to learn what your guardrails are and what you can go do yourself on the couch at night rather than waiting for the sprint release call. And Yusuf, you're hearing this from customers. How does this concept come to life in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. So, yeah, this is like a question that we hear a lot from our customers. And this is like, I have a very good example for that illustrates exactly what you said, knowing the process, documenting that process and being able to keeping like the governance part that the IT would like to have, and at the same time speeding up. So this is like a customer 360. So it's a use case that resonates a lot with a lot of our customers, especially the ones who are like B2B selling to other organizations. So they love to have a way to do their customer 360 over like multiple systems. We know that this is like it was already available in some SaaS platforms, but the key here is that you are getting this information about your customers from different other systems. This is implemented internally in Celigo, so we use it. Our sales organization uses this daily. I use it daily before getting calls with my customers. I used to spend like maybe 30 to like maybe 1 hour sometimes if I want to prepare very well for a meeting. You see here multiple logos. You can see Gong, Salesforce, the ERP, if you have like a data warehouse. So if you want to gather this information from all these systems and have like a good idea about your customer before talking to that customer, you will need like to spend some time, right? Maybe we can jump on a platform and I can show you what does that look like in Celigo itself. And I think you can see now the Celigo, the platform, right, Brian?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So as I said, the purpose was basically to have a way to gather all this information about our customers before we can jump on a call with those customers. And we've built for that an agent, which is implemented as a flow. And that flow is, we are like spanning over like a lot of systems here. So the front end for that agent, because Celigo we are using as a collaborative system, we are using Slack. So we've implemented that as a Slack app. So you can see here, we've built like a Slack bot. It's called Celigo bot. And we've implemented on the top of that Slack bot. It's very easy to configure this in Slack, a slash command. It's called account summary. So you put the account summary and you give the name of the account. I will just test with Acme. It could be the exact name or like part of the name of the account. So once we do that, what will happen is that we are listening here to that Slack event. And then we will go to our CRM, fetch our accounts, and then get back all the accounts that has Acme or just part of the name is Acme. And then we will send back the options to whoever requested that. So you see, we got here as an option Acme Chocolatier, some details, customer one, yeah, some ECV and details about that customer. And then it could be like one option or multiple options. Maybe I will have like Acme Packaging and Acme Logistics as part of the options that we'll get here. I can choose that option. And then now what will happen is that we will go over like this first branch where we are going to gather information from the CRM, Gong transcripts. So everything, so all the meetings that we have, we are using Gong obviously, and we can get that the transcripts from our sales platform, the ERP, all the financial details. And this is the interesting part. So Zendesk, for example, just for the ticketing, we can get all the information related to what is that customer, like if they are facing like any challenges, and then we can have all the comments, all the details. So if I want to really do like a deep dive into those comments and those tickets opened in our support platform, it will take me a lot of time just to gather like and get the actual context. We are using Snowflake to store the usage. So and then we gather that context that Brian mentioned. So we distill the information and we provide that information to the AI. Now, you will see that we have like three. In reality, for this use case, we are using just OpenAI, but we can support any LLM out there. So Gemini, Anthropic, or even like a local model. If you have, if you are like, it happens that you are like an organization that that needs to use like a local model instead of a cloud one, we can support that as well. So the AI will do what the AI does the best, which is like extracting this information from all this data. So this is, as you can see, it's a regular traditional process automation. The only difference here is that we are automating something that we could not automate before, which is like the big chunk of text. It's an unstructured data that we could not automate before the generative AI. So now we get that information, all that text from the transcripts, and we provide it to the AI. The AI will extract all the information we need. We generate the PDF, move it to a Google Drive, and then we get the link and we send it to the requester. So if I go back to my Slack bot, you see that it generated already for me my link. If I click on it, it will take me to the Google Drive. It's a branded, nice PDF that can be used by the sales team, executive leaders, anyone who wants to have like an idea about a 360 idea about our customers. So the customer profile, what is the business overview of what is the business of that customer, any stakeholders. So the stakeholders are coming from the Salesforce part, but also we can get this information from the transcripts. So maybe during one of the meetings, the CFO jumped on a call and they introduced themselves, but we don't have that contact in our CRM. We can extract this information at the end of the flow. We can augment the CRM with the information extracted from those transcripts. So we can have that information added as a key stakeholders for that account. Same thing for the financial part. And this is like the interesting part for me. Red flags. Sometimes you have like sales representatives, they have like very good discussions with the customers, but sometimes maybe the customer complains about something specific. Maybe for our case, maybe a pre-built connector that they could not find, and the sales rep could not really put a note on that complaint in our CRM. Maybe they forgot, or it was like something that was mentioned quickly. So this part here, the red flags and risks, we extract this information from the transcripts. So there is no risk now of forgetting like the important notes in our CRMs, and we can extract this information immediately and directly from the transcripts. And again, once we extract this, we can augment our CRM again with this information. At the end of the flow, we can augment the CRM with things that we missed maybe during our calls. other things. So the support ticket, for example, I can see all the support tickets. I can have a link to my support platform, strategic discussions. This is I want to discuss with my customers their priorities instead of like they want to do like EDI. I don't have to jump on a call and say maybe API management is the right solution for you. I want to be in their priorities. So I get what are their priorities based on the discussions, and I can discuss those with them. And then this is where the AI is really good, predictive one. So now that we have all this information and all this data, we can predict what are the growth opportunities based on the information that we had. And we can see that maybe the next thing is maybe the EDI. Maybe we can check the health performance of where their integrations or any other projects that might be the next step for them. Yeah, so this is like the first use case, the customer 360. Another one is basically now Celigo has like other AI very advanced features. The AI agent, so you can build an AI agent on the platform. You can put the governance around it with the guardrails. That AI agent can use tools outside of the platform using MCP servers that you can build as well in Celigo using APIs. I will give you like a good example that illustrates all this. Let me jump to another account where I have an example for Acme Chocolatier, which is this one. So Acme Chocolatier is a chocolate store. It's a store where we sell chocolate, see very nice chocolate, and we want to expose for our customers a chatbot that can help an agent that can help them with anything orders, returns, refunds, escalating to an agent, anything that an agent can do, a human agent can do in their like platform. I want an agent to be able to do the same tasks, but using this chatbot. So the chatbot is Coco here. You see, we can do a lot of things. You can build a box. This is like a guided experience of shopping in the store, or like track my orders. I can click on this. Once I click on this, so what will happen is like everything that we have here is powered in the backend with this agent. This is the agent, Acme Chocolatier. You see this nice logo agent. And really this website, so to be honest with you, this is like a vibe coded website. It's custom, totally custom. And we have like a chatbot. And all what we need for that chatbot is just an API to be able to get what is the request and send back the response. So that API happens to be built on Celigo. So you can build that API, you have like something to trigger that API, and you have responses, a successful response or an error if something happens. And in the middle, we have our agent. So the agent here is Acme Chocolatier. If I click on this one, you will see that we can configure a couple of things. We can either use Celigo's AI. It means that if you have like already some relationship with OpenAI, Anthropic, and you want to use your accounts for these LLMs, you can bring your own key and configure the connection, and that's it. If not, you can use Celigo AI, and Celigo will basically resell the token to the end user. You can select the model, provide all the instructions about how do you want to handle your agent, all the rules, everything, the instructions. How do you want to output the format? Is it like I want to have like extract and message, which is the response, action, data? You define it the way you want. And then this is the interesting part. You can add tools. So an agent needs tools to be able to act on your data, right? So if I click on add tools, you see that we have two tools coming natively with the agent, web search and image generation. And then you can connect to other tools. So via MCP server. So you can create like an MCP server, and this is the one that I'm using. It's an internal MCP server that I built with some APIs like look up orders by email, create support ticket, get order tracking. So all the things that the agent needs to be able to act on my data. And then I can also connect to any external MCP server. So I think the question now is, what is an MCP server, right? So we can connect an agent to an MCP server, but what is exactly an MCP server? An MCP server is if we want to simplify the notion of an MCP server, it's basically just a package where you have tools that any agent out there in the internet can use to act on your data. And Celigo offers the possibility to create these MCP servers. So you see, I can create an MCP server. I can give it like APIs to do things. I can secure it. And I can even use my MCP server, this one, from outside of Celigo. So I use a lot Cloud Code. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Cloud Code, but it's basically just the terminal version of Cloud Desktop. So I can just do something like create an MCP server that does a lot of things with orders. And you can see that I have this MCP server created. If I do something like list all my orders, it will use this tool to get this data and show me the data here. And if I can do list all our customers, it will use another tool, get customer list, and will do. And I can iterate on this. I can say, do a customer 360 on Nina Lopez, and it will go and see all the tools available and basically pull those tools, get the data needed, and I can interact with my data. So you can create this MCP server and you can use it internally from Claude, ChatGPT, Claude Code, or even any custom agent out there. So my agent here, if we go back to that Acme Chocolatier example, once I can interact with the agent, I can ask questions. I can ask it to act on something like build a box of chocolate for me. So it will go and it will basically guide me to build that box of chocolate. And it will ask me what are the flavors that I want to use, all that. And it will use one of the tools that I have here to build that box. Yeah, so this is the agents, the guardrails. If we go back to that API, Acme Chocolatier, you see that I have the agent here, but I have another thing here. I have the guardrails. So this is, if you are building anything AI, governance is the key. You can't be serious if you don't have like some building this with like some governance around. So Celigo makes it really easy to do that. So you see that it's kind of like a flow. Whatever that agent will have as a response, I have a guardrail to moderate what that response is about. You see the types. I have like PII. I can detect any PII. I don't want my agent to expose any credit card numbers. I don't know why my agent will need to send credit card numbers to my customers. So I want to identify any credit card numbers, personal names, for examples, or anything. So I can select all, any PII. I want to detect that and I want to mask it. The other thing that I can do, I can moderate the text that we are sending and flag anything in my response that is part of these categories. And if that's the case, I can act on it. It will be flagged and I can act on it. The third type of guardrails is a custom prompt where you can customize your instructions. You basically, if you are an organization, you have your own policy, you can bring the policy, put it here, and the guardrails agent can basically flag what you have, what is against your policy. And this way, you will be able to use an agent for a customer-facing use case in a very secure and governed way. So having said that, now I think I will hand it to Sandeep to show us maybe something about a use case for RevOps, if that's.
Yusuf, I was wondering if you're able to take a question. We have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what's your experience with dealing with issues around hallucination? And how can you be absolutely sure that the data the agent spits out is reliable and can be trusted?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if whoever asked this question asked it before showing the guardrails or not, but the guardrails are like a big chunk of like the response. Because you can customize anything here, it's basically you have a second set of eyes of anything that the agent is doing. You filter out anything that the agent, any hallucinations, you can have like multiple layers of verification. You can have the first layer in the instructions itself, saying like, these are the things that you need to do, and these are the rules. The second layer is the guardrails. And you can like even have multiple other things that you can build as like a input filter, for example, for specific things. And I think the models right now are getting very good, better, like when it comes to hallucination or avoiding hallucinations in general. But we can't trust AI. That's the rule. And this is why we provide the guardrails as part of like the package, the AI package for anything that you want to build on the platform, and AI automation for any business process on the platform.
Yeah. The guardrails are critical and they've really helped us a lot. I think the other thing, and Sandeep can probably talk to this, we dealt with that early days as well. And I think there are a few things that I learned personally, and I mentioned this earlier, is breaking down the output into smaller parts rather than the big question. The big question is really what creates the hallucinations in many cases. So breaking it down to small parts. And at times, sometimes we have the human in the loop. And especially as we get going and we get started with new agents that we're deploying, we are monitoring them very closely. So asking small questions on a very specific context set is important.
Good point, Brian. And thank you for bringing this up. So we have like an example of one AR automation where we do like a lot of agentic tasks. And at the end of every one, we draft an email. So this is an automation. So it's our AR account receivable team. They wanted to automate like the inquiries that they get. They found out that like 50% of the inquiries are like generic and they could be automated with the help of AI. So we built that, right? Sandeep's team built that. And at the end of everything that we do, we draft an email instead of basically just responding to the requester. That drafted email is moved under like a label. And then a human in the loop aspect is very important here because that account receivable specialist can review what was the original request and what was the AI generated response, validate, prove, and this is exactly what we want to send as a response, and then just click on the send button. Another point is the context. Context is king here. You see that all these, for the customer 360, all these systems where we are getting all this information, if you look at the data that we get here, we are building actually for the LLM, we are building the context. So if I move to the data that I'm sending to the LLM, you will see that we are sending actually a very specific information. From the big chunk that we get from different systems, we select what is important for us to reduce the hallucination. This is what you see, things about the company, data about the company. This is for the CRM and from the ERP, the tickets coming from the support platform, and also the calls for the transcript. So all this, the context plus the guardrails plus the human in the loop can really help with the hallucinations. And Sandeep, do we have like an example for the RevOps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll share my screen. So quick context setting before we get into the use case, right? So Brain and team from the GTM standpoint, they had this problem of how do we do outbound prospecting at scale? So we had some process in place where marketing was trying to do some prospecting, but that was not super effective. So what the problem we are trying to solve was like we want to be very surgical about whom we are trying to reach out to, what companies and which specific roles and contacts in that company, and how do we personalize the email content so that it appeals to them to have a conversation kind thing. So that was a problem with which we started. So what we're showing now is a Slack interface for the prospecting engine we built, but this engine can run from Salesforce, or this can run from a backend processes like whenever an event happens in G2, or whenever some event happens in Salesforce, like we lost an opportunity, we won an opportunity. Any such events can trigger this prospecting engine and can run in the background at scale, but what we are showing a manual version of it. So I'll be talking about 4 agents here to give some context. So the first one is called lookalike prospects. Let's say if I'm a sales rep and I landed into a deal with a customer. So now I want to see, okay, since I have a deal with this customer, like who all are the potential other prospects who are very similar to this customer, and I wanted to prospect to them. So I come in here and then I key in the name. Let's say these are our Salesforce things. I pick a company that we have here, and then I click the submit button. So what happens in the background is we have an agent that's going to the public web, trying to understand the context of the given company, and then trying to do a extensive web search to get the list of competition for that company, the list of companies who are doing similar business model and all that stuff. So in this case, Factor Bikes is one of our customer, and then if you want to prospect for potential customers for prospects for Factor Bikes, so the agent give me this information. So it went on the web, and then it brought me around 36 customers who are very close to what Factor Bikes is doing in terms of business model, revenue, the sector, and all that stuff. So after that, there's another agent that's taking the information from this competition, and then this is going again to the public available sources, and then trying to enrich the data, like be it about the location of the company or the employee count or their potential ARR and different funding stages and all the information. So we have this enrichment agent that's trying to enrich the potential prospects so that we as a business can apply our own ICP criteria. So we have an ICP criteria, we apply that, and then from this list of enriched prospects, we have the final list of prospects that we want to reach out to for both commercial and strategic and different teams that we have. So this helps a lot because no research is needed by anyone. It's just an automatic way. Whenever I win a new customer, I can get all this information at hand kind of thing. So this is the lookalike prospects agent that we built, which brings in new prospects similar to the existing customers we have. Going back, we have another example of here is the get contacts agent. So from the first step, we found the prospects that we want to reach out to. But now once we have the prospect, we want to see whom to reach out to in that prospect. Like let's say any company could have a few hundreds of people, but we have some specific criteria as to who is our ideal buying group, and within that buying group, what roles for specific industries and all that stuff. So we apply our own business logic and then try to get that context list. So if we go into get context, so here I can give an existing prospect name, like let's say Power Bikes that we seen, or I can just use prospect domain name or a name and then click confirm. So once that's done, what happens is this agent goes to different systems like Zoom Info, it goes to LinkedIn Sales Navigator and gets all the information. And then it uses tools like Zero Bounce and other tools to ensure that the bounce rates are all valid, emails are given, and it goes through the ICP criteria and then potentially filters out to the top 5 people that we want to reach out to from a prospecting standpoint. Just going back for the contact information here for this one of the prospect for Power Bikes, Trek Bicycle Corporation. So this is giving me all the information around what are the emails for different roles that we have here. So all these roles are the ICP roles that we got the info from the business standpoint. Okay, so once we have the contact information now, so we want to generate the prospecting emails. So people come here and then just click on this generate prospecting emails. They can choose the same drop down or domain or name and then hit enter. So once that's done, what happens is, let's say I've run this for the Trek Bicycle Corporation prospect that we want to do. So within Slack, it takes few minutes. And so what this agent does is, so this agent calls multiple other agents. Like it calls first the contacts agent to get the potential list of contacts that we have to reach out to. It calls the tech stack agent. What that agent does is it goes to the public web, reads their open jobs, tries to get the technology stack, use different other tools like built with and all, just to get the complete technology landscape of that customer. And then it calls another agent for cohort use cases. Like we have our own existing customers, we have a cohort of industries and all, and then we know what they're using internally, so that when we reach out to someone, we want to use our own existing usage as a primary reference to prospect, etc. And once it has gone through all these talking to these agents, it will use another LLM to generate contextual email. Let's say if I'm trying to email a VP of operations, the message is different. If I'm trying to reach out to someone in the IT team, it's different. If I'm trying to reach out to an integration architect, the emails are different. So the goal of this agent is to invoke different agents, gather the information, and based on the person we are trying to reach out to, or the role of the person we are trying to reach out to, understanding their pain point, using our own internal knowledge base and all that stuff, we generate hyper personalized emails. So when we ran this agent here, what it does is it will go into Gong and create few emails. So say if this is my Gong instance, and if I go into my to-dos, so I can see emails generated for this customer to reach out to, for this prospect to reach out to at this thing. So now human in the loop comes into the picture. So the sales rep or the AE who is looking into this, he'll review the email, ensure that everything is good and nothing bad with that as a final checkpoint, and then send out an email from here for prospecting. So that's the end-to-end workflow of prospecting at scale. So though we showed the manual version of it, so everything happens in the background. Like whenever a deal is won, we go through and get all the lookalike prospects we store in our Snowflake database. And then on a daily basis, like we go through the each prospects, get their contacts in the background, generate these emails so that rep, whenever they start the day, they have their to-dos to look into, and then they can just review the email and send out at scale kind thing.
Amazing, Sandeep. Thank you. I feel this is like just a great example of the power of the platform. And as everyone on the call watches this and sees it, it should give you the ideas of how many different directions you can take this. And really, if you can dream it, you can build it. And this is a perfect example of that. So I do want to make sure we reserve some time for Q&A, Sandeep. But yeah, again, I think one of the key points here is that sometimes it seems as if we're building products that could be a commercial product, and that's really the power of an iPaaS, is being able to orchestrate data, insert agents, understand your guardrails, and then ultimately produce an output and a result that is the one that you intended to produce. So it's really kind of exciting. Again, it's always a challenge because now we're all learning new skills being product managers, but the possibilities are limitless. Thank you, Sandeep. Well, we wanted to make sure we reserved some time for questions. I know there was kind of a couple questions that came through. Have there been any new questions?
I have one question for you, Brian.
Sure, Matt. Fire away. Where'd you get that sweatshirt, by the way? Anyhow, it's a different question.
Man, okay. Well, my embarrassing answer is I don't know because my wife does all my shopping. You'd have to ask her. So we talked a lot about the possibilities of AI and what's capable. I always like, there's obviously things that either can't be done or maybe you've tried that haven't worked, or you did talk a little bit about like human in the loop sort of stuff. So I'm just curious, do you have any example stories on places where you as an operator have tried to apply AI or use AI and have ultimately determined that maybe it wasn't the right fit, or your initial plan had to be changed from fully automated autonomous agent to human in the loop? Like how, just curious on like any examples or stories that you have.
Yeah, to be honest, we deal with that like seemingly every day. I think the ultimate desired state, and back to what Sandeep was just sharing, that's a great example. So we built this, and the ideal state is very customized, tailored experiences for every person. Well, what you realize is that once if you give a little bit of creative liberty to AI, sometimes it takes it a little too far. And I think that's one small example. Another we had talked about in the past is, for us, there's a lot that we learn from our conversations. And what our vision is, this autonomous CRM experience where sellers just do their job and we capture the data that we need throughout that selling process. And, there's a very specific way that we like to classify our deals. And in our case, we put an agent in the whole process, which was reading the transcripts and trying to output the answer to the question of how we classify our deals. And what we started with is, a pretty straightforward prompt, which then had some artifacts which supported that evidence. And we continued to iterate the prompt, and it got better. The answer got better, but it wasn't perfect. So then we realized there's actually a different approach to the problem. There are 3 variables that indicate how do we classify a deal. So let's break that down into 3 parts. And we asked these 3 very specific questions, which came back with varied answers. And then we put those varied answers back together to provide the answer to the question that we had. So I think, there's a ton of learnings, and that's just one great example of like breaking it back down into small parts, answering very specific questions, and then bringing it back together at the end.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know, oh yeah.
I just
Yusuf,
want to add
yeah.
like one point, and we've seen like multiple different use cases in just this session. I would like to put the emphasis that not everything needs to be built as an autonomous agent. A lot of business processes out there can be built as deterministic with just a flavor of agentic, like a culture model for multiple reasons. Because first of all, you know your process, you can define it as like a deterministic process, and you can just add the agent where it's needed. And also for the pricing and the cost perspective, because an agent, autonomous agent, is not as cheap as like having a deterministic with just one call to the AI. The autonomous agent will have to do multiple calls to the LLM, multiple tools to get to the goal, versus like just a deterministic process where you need just one agentic step. So we need to distinguish and define before we start anything what type of automation we want to do.
Yeah. Makes sense. And, I think at the end of the day, especially operators, we're all builders at heart. We love to build things, but also need to remember that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so just because building right now is easier than it ever has been, just because you could build an agent to do a thing doesn't mean that you should, because sometimes, dare I say, the good old fashioned deterministic workflow that Yusuf just mentioned is actually the best way to do things. So I struggle with that, though. I know others do as well. So I think that's one kind of word of warning or caution that I'll throw out there. And then one more question for you guys, because I don't think we've actually shared this yet, but we do have a link for the MIT report, right? Could you guys, I don't know who has that. Could somebody drop that into the chat or let people know where they can find the MIT report? And also, Jacob, you're the one who asked this question. We will be, I think the Celigo team will be sharing that out in a post-event email as well. But does anybody have the link handy that they could either drop into the chat or share?
Megan or Cam?
Yeah, if you all are out there in the audience still. And then while we do that, we are basically at time. I have a couple of minutes left. So Adi, why don't you, I'll kind of turn it back over to you. You can do kind of outros and wrap up here.
Yeah. And yeah, first of all, thanks to the Sligo team for the presentation. And for all of you who are attending, we want your feedback. We would love to hear from you on what topics you want coming up. So please give us your feedback in the exit survey when you close out the webinar. And with that, thank you all for attending. Thanks, Celigo team. Any last words?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with this group. Thank you, Adi and Matt. And, I'm on the RevOps Co-op Slack channel. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to anybody who has more questions or just want to brainstorm how to, best operationalize AI at the company.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, like one last point. It will seem a little bit salesy, but the good thing with Celigo is that we are on both sides, the deterministic and agentic. Just come to us if you need some help. We can help you with both.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.